Banderacon Captain's Log in sound mind. So I have played to completion both current Psychonauts games, barring the side journey into VR, which I don't necessarily view as a full-on Psychonauts game, the Rhombus of Ruin. Mostly because it was kind of a little knick-knack that was put in there, and it's probably amazing fun, but it's not a Psychonauts game, let's be honest. It's a side grade. It was something they knocked together to make to fill a stopgap between the 15 years of sequels that they should have made. Anyway, so I know that I've started this review with the phrase in sound mind, which is a fantastic game, and let me just get to it for fuck's sake. Psychonauts 1 was a Double Fine production that was just... It was a great game. It was a nice little platformer with collectathon mechanics, which is usually something I absolutely despise, but they made it really, really good. They built it into the levels organically, and it felt good. Like, usually with stuff like games like Banjo-Kazooie or, say, Super Mario, it's just, they're all over the gaff, I don't care. And it places kind of like too much emphasis on hiding one coin out of absolute bounds or round a corner where you wouldn't look normally. Psychonauts made everything feel nice and natural and organic, and you could complete the game with anything you find anyway. Like, there was no pressure to collect things or to unlock abilities. You could go feasibly from the beginning to the end of the game with all of the pickups that you had, and you would accrue naturally in that game. It was fantastic. Then I'll skip it to Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts 2 actually had a bit more adultness to it. It encountered things like anger issues, substance dependence, mostly in the form of alcohol in one particularly memorable level. It even dealt with things like, well, being dead and coming back from being dead. And it did it in a way that I genuinely thought was fantastic, in a fairly psychedelic level. Those who've played it know what the fuck I'm talking about. However, Psychonauts tried to be more adult than it was ready to be. The whole framing of the idea is that your grandma has had the horrible person that she is thoroughly repressed right the fuck into herself, and you have to deal with it. But it doesn't at any point feel like there's any real stakes to the level. It doesn't feel like anybody's suffered. And it has about as much narrative weight as a feature-length episode of The Muppets Show. In Sound Mind does everything that Psychonauts does, but better from an adult perspective. Now, In Sound Mind follows a kind of Resident Evil 7 approach, in that it's a first-person shooter / stealther, though if we're honest, you can ditch the stealth. The stealth is completely not handled in any decent way, shape or form in this. But you are I'm probably going to butcher this, a psychiatrist who is dealing with the thoughts and feelings of several patients. You get to enter their minds and deal with their shit, though admittedly, barring one, they're all dead. For one reason or another. Now, the levels... In fact, let me start at the beginning. You wake up in what would be effectively like a hotel / apartment building that seems to be absolutely falling apart. You find, I think, at the beginning a gun and a torch, and you work your way through and you go to the first level. It has a Metroidvania-esque sort of start to it, in that there are obviously levels that you can't make it through at the beginning, and you get the tools to go back. But, so you do your first level, and it introduces at the beginning a theme that is going to go through the remaining levels in the game, barring the boss level at the end, which is there is going to be a persistent level hazard, which is, at least in the first level, it's a ghost lady who you have to deter by looking at her through a broken shard of mirror that you get right at the beginning. Now, this follows through to the other levels. In the second level, it's a tar person who follows you through on the ground. Though he's only on the ground, he can't follow you any higher, and you have to determine flares. In the third level, it's an angry bull person who can use to break levels of the scenery, so for example walls, and you can come in with happy pills. In the fourth level, which I'm going to come back to in a bit, it's a full-on PTSD sniper giant robot And immediately the game highlights this idea of struggling mental health far better than Psychonauts ever did. It pictures it with a level of brutal reality that is kind of cartoonishly glossed over. Now, before anybody thinks I'm shitting all over Psychonauts, Psychonauts is perfect. Psychonauts is fantastic as it is. But I like adult. I like realistic. I like something a bit more closer to home. Psychonauts allows everyone to have a happy ending because it does. It's a Terry Pratchett book at the end. Terry Pratchett allowed everyone who was involved to have a happy ending. Even the city of Ankh-Morpork, which was meant to be this city where violence was a thing that was a daily occurrence, was almost cartoonishly safe. The thieves may as well have had rubber-tipped daggers as far as I'm concerned. And it's much the same in Psychonauts. The main character basically safely disarms the main bad. Well, not even bad, it's his grandma at the end of the day. But the point being is they basically deal with everything without any kind of lasting repercussions. And nobody gets hurt and everything's fantastic at the end. In Sound Mind, 3 out of the 4 people you deal with have died. They either killed themselves or died failing to basically respond to your treatment. And it's not your fault, as you find out at the end, but they're dead. They're gone. The final person is the only one who survives, and kind of by only the virtue of his own paranoia, which you're trying to treat him for, which you find out is otherwise entirely justified, he survives. And he comes to help you, or you think he does, and that's where In Sound Mind 2 kind of leaves it, because we don't have a sequel yet, and I'd very much like one to be. If you're listening, please make one. Now, one of the things that ruined In Sound Mind, and I say ruined, but I'm not being sincere, one of the things that kind of brought it away for me is the fact that somebody said it was a Resident Evil 7 clone. But that's not really accurate as far as I'm concerned. Resident Evil 7 was a survival horror in a very similar format. In Sound Mind is a suspense, story-driven game, in that you are there to be present for the stories of the people you are trying to help, or tried to help, as your character, as a psychiatrist. Resident Evil, you are somebody trying to survive some bullshit that's going on. The difference is that they've made it in a fairly similar format, in the sense of, okay, it's first person, there's a stealth mechanic, though, if I'm perfectly honest, even though they try and make it a big deal, the stealth mechanic in the Sound Mind is completely irrelevant, and it may as well not exist. It's a game that I would say is probably a 9.5 out of 10, even though as a game itself, it's pretty trash. It's like Spec Ops: The Line. Spec Ops: The Line is a 10 out of 10, though if you take it on the game as itself, it's basically Gears of War in dirty sand, Afghanistan, Staz, third-person shooter. But it's more the content of the game rather than the gameplay itself that makes it fantastic. I realise I've rambled on for about 10 minutes now, so I'm going to give you a call to action. If you have the ability to do so, go and play In Sound Mind. If you do not, then wait till it's on sale, and it is on sale frequently, and go and play it. Just go in, ignore everything I've said, just appreciate the experience, and for fuck's sake, listen to the vinyls. You'll know what I mean if you're listening. It's all good. It's all good. The love is there. The game is fantastic. Go and play it. For fuck's sake, go and play it now. Bye.